Morning, friends. We're continuing the Pilgrim's Progress. Christian has met the porter. Then I saw that he went on trembling for fear of the lions, but taking good heed to the directions of the porter, he heard them roar, but they did him no harm. Then he clapped his hands and went on till he came and stood before the gate where the porter was. Then said Christian to the porter, "Sir, what house is this, and may I lodge here for tonight?" The porter answered, "This house was built by the Lord of the Hill, and he built it for the relief and security of pilgrims." The porter also asked whence he was and whither he was going. "I am come from the city of destruction, and I am going to Mount Zion, but because the sun is now set, I desire if I may to lodge here tonight." "What is your name?" "My name is now Christian, but my name at first was Graceless. I came of the race of Japheth, whom God will persuade to dwell in the tents of Shem." "But how doth it happen that you come so late? The sun is set." "I had been here sooner, but that wretched man that I am, I slept in the arbor that stands on the hillside. Nay, I had, notwithstanding that, been here much sooner, but that in my sleep I lost my evidence, and came without it to the brow of the hill, and then feeling for it and finding it not, I was forced with sorrow of heart to go back to the place where I slept my sleep, where I found it, and now I am come. Well, I will call out one of the virgins of this place, who will, if she likes your talk, bring you into the rest of the family, according to the rules of the house." So watchful the porter rang a bell, at the sound of which came out of the door of the house a grave and beautiful damsel named Discretion, and asked why she was called. The porter answered, "This man is on a journey from the city of destruction to Mount Zion, but being weary and benighted, he asked me if he might lodge here for tonight. So I told him I would call for thee, who, after discourse had with him, mayest do as seemeth thee good, even according to the law of the house." Then she asked him whence he was and whither he was going. He told her. She asked him also how he got into the way, and he told her. Then she asked him what he had seen and met with in the way, and he told her. And at last she asked his name. So he said, "It is Christian. And I have so much the more a desire to lodge here tonight, because by what I perceive this place was built by the Lord of the Hill for the relief and security of pilgrims." So she smiled, but the water stood in her eyes, and after a little pause she said, "I will call forth 2 or 3 more of the family." So she ran to the door and called out, "Prudence, Piety, and Charity," who after a little more discourse with him had him into the family. And many of them, meeting him at the threshold of the house, said, "Come in, thou blessed of the Lord. This house was built by the Lord of the Hill on purpose to entertain such pilgrims in." Then he bowed his head and followed them into the house. So when he was come in and sat down, they gave him something to drink, and consented together that until supper was ready, some of them should have some particular discourse with Christian, for the best improvement of time, and they appointed Piety and Prudence and Charity to discourse with him, and thus they began. "Come here, baby, sit down." "Come, good Christian, since I have been so loving to you, to receive you into our house this night, let us, if perhaps we may better ourselves thereby, talk with you of all things that have happened to you in your pilgrimage." "With a very good will, and I am glad that you are so well disposed. What moved you at first to betake yourself to a pilgrim's life?" "I was driven out of my native country by a dreadful sound that was in mine ears, to wit, that unavoidable destruction did attend me if I abode in that place where I was." "But how did it happen that you came out of your country this way?" "It was as God would have it, for when I was under the fears of destruction I did not know whither to go, but by chance there came a man even to me as I was trembling and weeping, whose name is Evangelist, and he directed me to the wicket gate, which else I should never have found, and so set me into the way that hath led me directly to this house." "But did you not come by the house of the interpreter?" "Yes, and did see such things there, the remembrance of which will stick by me as long as I live, especially 3 things, to wit, how Christ, in despite of Satan, maintains his work of grace in the heart, how the man had sinned himself quite out of hopes of God's mercy, and also the dream of him that thought in his sleep the day of judgment was come." "Why, did you hear him tell his dream?" "Yes, and a dreadful one it was. I thought it made my heart ache as he was telling of it, but yet I am glad I heard it." "Was that all that you saw at the house of the interpreter?" "No, he took me and had me and had me where he showed me a stately palace, and how the people were clad in gold that were in it, and how there came out a venturous man, and cut his way through the armed men that stood in the door to keep him out, and how he was bid to come in and win eternal glory. Methought those things did ravish my heart. I could have stayed at that good man's house a 12-month, but that I knew I had farther to go. And what saw you else in the way? Saw? Why, I went but a little further, and I saw one, as I thought in my mind, hang bleeding upon a tree, and the very sight of him made my burden fall off my back. For I groaned under a weary burden, but then it fell down from off me. 'Twas a strange thing to me, for I never saw such a thing before, yea, and while I stood looking up, for then I could not forbear looking, 3 shining ones came to me. One of them testified that my sins were forgiven me. Another stripped me of my rags and gave me this broidered coat which you see, and the third set the mark which you see on my forehead, and gave me this sealed roll, and with that he plucked it out of his bosom. But you saw more than this, did you not? The things that I have told you were the best. Yet some other small matters I saw, as namely I saw 3 men, simple, sloth, and presumption, lie asleep a little out of the way as I came, with irons upon their heels. But do you think I could awake them? I also saw formality and hypocrisy come tumbling over the wall, to go, as they pretended, to Zion. But they were quickly lost, even as I myself did tell them, but they would not believe. But above all I found it hard work to get up this hill, and as hard to come by the lions' mouths, and truly, if it had not been for the good man, the porter that stands at the gate, I do not know but that after all I might have gone back again. But now I thank God I am here, and I thank you for receiving of me. Then Prudence thought good to ask him a few questions, and desired his answer to them. Do you not think sometimes of the country from whence you came? Yea, but with much shame and detestation. Truly, if I had been mindful of that country from whence I came out, I might have had opportunity to have returned, but now I desire a better country, this is, a heavenly. Do you not yet bear away with you some of the things that then you were conversant withal? Yes, but greatly against my will, especially my inward and carnal cogitations, with which all my countrymen as well as myself were delighted. But now all those things are my grief. And might I but choose mine own things, I would choose never to think of those things more, but then I would be doing of that which is best. That which is worst is with me. Do you not find sometimes as if those things were vanquished, which at other times are your perplexity? Yes, but that is but seldom. They are to me golden hours in which such things happen to me. Can you remember by what means you find your annoyance at times, as if they are vanquished? Yes, when I think what I saw at the cross, that will do it. And when I look upon thy broidered coat, that will do it. Also when I look into the roll that I carry in my bosom, that will do it. And when my thoughts wax warm about whither I am going, that will do it. And what is it that makes you so desirous to go to Mount Zion? Why, there I hope to see him alive that did hang dead on the cross. And there I hope to be rid of all those things that to this day are in me an annoyance to me. There they say there is no death, and there I shall dwell with such company as I like best. For to tell you truth, I love him, because I was by him eased of my burden, and I am weary of my inward sickness. I would fain be where I shall die no more, and with the company that shall continually cry, Holy, holy, holy. Then said Charity to Christian, Have you a family? Are you a married man? I have a wife and 4 small children. But why did you not bring them along with you? Then Christian wept and said, Oh, how willingly I would have done it. But they were all of them utterly averse to my going on pilgrimage. But you should have talked to them and have endeavored to have shown them the danger of being behind. So I did, and told them also that God had shewed to me of the destruction of our city, but I seemed to them as one that mocked, and they believed me not. And did you pray to God that he would bless your counsel to them? Yes, and that with much affection. For you must think that my wife and poor children are very dear unto me. But did you tell them of your own sorrow and fear of destruction? For I suppose that destruction was visible enough to you. Yes, over and over and over, they might also see my fears in my countenance, in my tears, and also in my trembling under the apprehension of the judgment that did hang over our heads. But all was not sufficient to prevail with them to come with me. But what could they say for themselves why they came not? Why, my wife was afraid of losing this world, and my children were given to the foolish delights of youth, so what by one thing and what by another, they left me to wander this manner alone. But did you not with your vain life damp all that you by words used by way of persuasion to bring them away with you? Indeed, I cannot commend my life, for I am not conscious to myself of many failings therein. I know also that a man by his conversation may soon overthrow what by argument or persuasion he did labour to fasten upon others for their good. Yet this I can say, I was very weary of giving them occasion by any unseemly action to make them averse to going on pilgrimage. Yea, for this very thing they would tell me I was too precise, and that I denied myself of things for their sakes in which they saw no evil. Nay, I think I may say that if what they saw in me did hinder them, it was my great tenderness in sinning against God, or of doing any wrong to my neighbour. Indeed, Cain hated his neighbour because his own works were evil, and his brother's righteous. And if thy wife and children have been offended with thee for this, they thereby shew themselves to be implacable to good, and thou hast delivered thy soul from their blood. Now I saw in my dream that thus they sat talking together until supper was ready. So when they had made ready, they sat down to meat. Now the table was furnished with fat things and with wine that was well refined, and all their talk at the table was about the Lord of the hill, as namely about what he had done, and wherefore he did what he did, and why he had built that house. And by what they said I perceived that he had been a great warrior, who had fought with and slain him that had the power of death, but not without great danger to himself, which made me love him the more. For as they said, and as I believe, said Christian, he did it with the loss of much blood, by that which put glory of grace into all he did, was that he did it of pure love to his country. And besides, there were some of them of the household that said they had seen and spoke with him since he did die on the cross, and they have attested that they had it from his own lips, that he is such a lover of poor pilgrims, that the like is not to be found from the east to the west. They moreover gave an instance of what they affirmed, and that was, he had stripped himself of his glory that he might do this for the poor, and that they heard him say and affirm that he would not dwell in the Mount of Zion alone. They said moreover that he had made many pilgrims princes, though by nature they were beggars born, and their original had been the dunghill. Thus they discoursed together till late at night, and after they had committed themselves to their Lord for protection, they betook themselves to rest. The pilgrim they laid in a large upper chamber, whose window opened towards the sun rising. The name of the chamber was Peace, where he slept till break of day, and then he awoke and sang, "Where am I now? Is this the love and care of Jesus, for the men that pilgrims are thus to provide, that I should be forgiven and dwell already the next door to heaven?" So in the morning they all got up, and after some more discourse, they told him that he should not depart till they had shewed him the rarities of that place. And first they had him into the study, where they shewed him records of the greatest antiquity, in which, as I remember my dream, they shewed him first the pedigree of the Lord of the Hill, that he was the son of the Ancient of Days, and came by an eternal generation. Here also was more fully recorded the acts that he had done, and the names of many hundreds that he had taken into his service, and how he had placed them in such habitations that he could neither by length of days nor decays of nature be dissolved. Then they read to him some of the worthy acts that some of his servants had done, as how they had subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, waxed valiant in fight, and turned to flight the armies of the aliens. Then they read again in another part of the records of the house, where it was shewed how willing their Lord was to receive into his favour any, though they in time past had offered great affronts to his person and proceedings. Here also were several other histories of many other famous things, of all which Christian had a view, as of things both ancient and modern, together with prophecies and predictions of things that have their certain accomplishments, both to the dread and amazement of enemies, and the comfort and solace of pilgrims. The next day they took him and had him into the armory, which they shewed him all manner of furniture, which their Lord had provided for pilgrims, as sword, shield, helmet, breastplate, all prayer, and shoes that would not wear out. And there was here enough of this to harness out as many men for the service of their Lord as there be stars in the heaven for multitude. They also shewed him some of the engines with which some of his servants had done wonderful things. They shewed him Moses' rod, the hammer and nail with which Jael slew Sisera, the pitchers, trumpets, and lamps too, with which Gideon put to flight the armies of Midian. Then they shewed him the ox's goad, wherewith Shamgar slew 600 men. They shewed him also the jawbone with which Samson did such mighty feats. They shewed him moreover the sling and stone with which David slew Goliath of Gath, and the sword also with which their Lord will kill the man of sin, in the day that he shall rise up to the prey. They shewed him besides many excellent things, with which Christian was much delighted. This done, they went to their rest again. Then I saw in my dream that on the morrow he got up to go forwards, but they desired him to stay till the next day also. And then said they, We will, if the day be clear, show you the delectable mountains, which they said would yet farther add to his comfort, because they were nearer the desired haven than the place where at present he was. So he consented and stayed. When the morning was up, they had him to the top of the house, and bid him look south. So he did, and behold, at a great distance they saw the most pleasant mountainous country, beautified with woods, vineyards, fruits of all sorts, flowers also, with springs and fountains, very delectable to behold. Then he asked the name of the country. They said, It is Emmanuel's land, and it is as common, said they, as this hill is to, and for all pilgrims. And when thou comest there, from thence thou mayest see to the gate of the celestial city, as the shepherds that live there will make appear. Now he bethought himself of setting forward, and they were willing that he should. But first, said they, Let us go again into the armory. So they did, and when he came there, they harnessed him from head to foot with what was of proof, lest perhaps he should meet with assaults in the way. He being therefore thus accoutred, walketh out with his friends to the gate. And there he asked the porter if he saw any pilgrims pass by. Then the porter answered, Yes. Pray, did you know him? Said he. I asked his name, and he told me it was Faithful. Oh, said Christian, I know him. He is my townsman, my near neighbor, and he comes from the place where I was born. How far do you think he may be before he has got by this time below the hill? Well, said Christian, good porter, the Lord be with thee, and add to all thy blessings much increase for the kindness that thou hast shewed to me. Then he began to go forward, but discretion, piety, charity, and prudence would accompany him down to the foot of the hill. So they went on together, reiterating their former discourses, till they came to go down the hill. Then said Christian, as it was difficult coming up, so far as I can see, it is dangerous going down. Yes, said Prudence, so it is. For it is a hard matter for a man to go down into the valley of humiliation, as thou art now, and to catch no slip by the way. Therefore, said they, we are come out to accompany thee down the hill. So he began to go down, but very warily, yet he caught a slip or two. That is where we'll stop for the day, friends. God bless you.